Snow and ice can cover up a lot, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the most terrifying things you could find in the snow. Coming in at number 5, we have plane crash wreckage. Discovered around the year 2000 was a wreckage site of a plane crash among the snow and ice in Alaska. It's thought that the crash happened in 1948, where around 30 people tragically lost their lives. So how did no one discover this? Well, the part of the small plane was buried beneath the snow, and the wreckage was located on a glacier on the side of a mountain in the Alaskan wilderness. So not much movement had been made, and a total of 200,000 people live in Alaska around the time of the crash. Flight 4422 of the Northwest Airlines was finally located after 50 years. Two searchers discovered the crash while on an expedition near the north side of Mount Sanford in Wrangell St. Elias National Park. The flight consisted of 6 crew members and 24 passengers, all seamen from an oil tanker company who were on their way home to New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. Some skeletal remains were found in the wreckage along with a mummified hand and arm. Around 2010, nearly a decade after the initial finding of the crash site, identifiable fingerprints were recovered from the remains, making a positive identification of a passenger on the flight that day in 1948, making this the world's oldest known identification of a post-mortem remain using fingerprint identification. The remaining 29 bodies still await possible recovery due to the remote location and weather conditions on the mountain. Kevin McGregor, who was one of the men who discovered the crash site, stated that the discovery brought a sense of closure for the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives that day. If this case interested you, Kevin McGregor, the co-founder of the plane wreckage, published a non-fiction account of the events of Flight 4422. Coming in at number 4, we have dinosaur bones. It turns out many dinosaur bones have been found throughout the years in the frozen tundra of Antarctica. Due to extreme cold weather, many dinosaurs have been able to stay preserved for millions of years until they were able to be discovered. The first discovery was made by geologists Eduardo Oliveira and Roberto Scasso in 1986. Another discovery was made by paleontologist Rodolfo Coria and paleotechnician Juan J. Molly, who happened upon a partial skeleton of a dinosaur in 2013. This new discovery consisted of some assorted hip, limb, and spinal bones, and the men could tell it was an ornithopod dinosaur, a beaked grazing herbivore ranging in size from small to outweighing Tyrannosaurus rexes. Along with many bones found, many fossils have also been discovered in the snow and ice of Antarctica. Most famously in 2017, the Elamosaur, which was an ancient aquatic reptile that swam the seas millions of years ago alongside the dinosaurs. The animal would have weighed up to 15 tons and is now one of the most complete ancient reptile fossils ever discovered in Antarctica. These sea creatures make up a family of the plesiosaurs, which are some of the largest sea creatures in existence. These creatures look kind of similar to manatees because of their large bodies, but also had long giraffe-like necks, snake-like heads, and flippers. Many would describe these creatures looking like the Loch Ness Monster because of their look, weight, and they span nearly 40 feet. The odd thing is, Antarctica was only formed about 25 million years ago, long after the dinosaurs had gone extinct. Before it was known as Antarctica, it was part of a supercontinent called Gondwana, which was a very hot place. Wow. Global warming. Wait. Climate change. Coming in at number 3, we have Otzi the Iceman. Otzi the Iceman is considered to be the most famous natural mummy in the world. Otzi is the mummified corpse of a man who died around 3300 BC and was found on the border of Austria and Italy in September of 1991 by German tourists who were hiking the mountain in the Otzi Alps. They had found the upper half of the body sticking out of the snow, and the corpse of the man is believed to have died after being struck by an arrow and bled to death, but this was not determined until 10 years after the discovery of the body. There was an arrowhead embedded in his left shoulder, and they had also found some of his belongings like a copper axe, 14 arrows, and a chirp-bladed knife near his body. After the discovery of the Iceman, 8 groups have visited the site, among whom were mountaineers Hans Kammerlander and Reinhold Messner. They had semi-extracted the body and came back the next day to finally free the corpse. Otzi was brought to be extensively examined, and in 2016 it was discovered that the man was around 5 feet 3 inches and weighed 110 pounds, and was 45 years old at the time of his death. Along with being the most famous natural mummy found, Otzi's blood was examined by scientists, and they had discovered his blood cells were still intact and resembled a modern-day sample. Many allege that Otzi is cursed because many people connected to the discovery of his body have died under mysterious circumstances. People like co-discoverer Helmut Simon and the first examiner of the body, Conrad Spindler. To this day, some people involved in some way with Otzi have died, and many attribute this to the alleged curse. Otzi is Europe's oldest known natural mummy, and his body and belongings he was found with are displayed in the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, Italy. Coming in at number 2, we have the Inca Incident. The Inca Incident is one of the saddest things found under ice. In 1993, 3 Inca mummies were found in Argentina near the volcan summit. These people were participating in a year-long series of sacred ceremonies that got them ready to be sacrificed. In Inca religious ideology, the one being sacrificed had to participate in the consumption of coca and alcohol in the form of chica, a fermented brew made from maize. This was done to apparently induce altered states, but many believe it was done to make the people more compliant during this process. The maiden's long braided hair helped researchers record what she ate and drank during the last 2 years of her life. This is where they could tell by her change in diet that a year prior to her death she was selected to take part and be sacrificed along with 2 other people. The people discovered were from 500 years ago, and the bodies were almost perfectly preserved from the ice. Their bodies sit in curled sleeping-like positions. Andrew Wilson, a forensic and archaeological expert at the University of Bradford, stated, "In terms of mummies that are known around the world, in my opinion, she has to be the best preserved of any of the mummies that I'm aware of. She looks almost as if she's just fallen asleep." Their remains are now on display in Salta, Argentina. And finally, in at number 1, we have Yuka the woolly mammoth. Back in early 2010, in a town called Yuka, which is a small village near the Laptev Sea of Siberia, local Siberian tusk hunters had come across a mummified corpse of a 39,000-year-old woolly mammoth. The mammoth was approximately 6 to 8 years old and weighed a whopping 5 tons. The mammoth mummy was found on an overhanging ledge about 4 meters above the beach level, partially in ice and covered in snow. When she was found, the locals named her after their town, hence the name Yuka. It is believed that Yuka had most likely been attacked by lions or other predators, but there is no evidence to support that theory, so to this day no one really knows how she died or how no one had found this giant beast in the snow. Others say she may have fallen off the ledge into the water and couldn't free herself and ultimately died. Thanks to the permafrost in Siberia, Yuka could stay cold and be preserved until her discovery was made. In 2012, scientists from the local Mammoth Museum in Yakutsk came and assessed their findings and had stored and preserved Yuka for the next 2 years in a natural refrigerator. Other scientists from Japan are fascinated by this discovery of this mummified mammoth and had actually been able to extract flowing blood from Yuka and plan to clone her. Hwang Woo-suk, a South Korean scientist, signed a deal and he was given the right to attempt to clone Yuka. Suk produced the world's first cloned dog in 2005. Many doubt the possibility to be able to clone Yuka due to her being so old and trying to produce an identical version using such old material. In 2014, Yuka was transported to Russia and was put on display where she stays to this day and is regarded to be the best preserved woolly mammoth in the history of paleontology. Well, there we have it. I will see you in the next video. In Wrangell's St. Elias. Oh, Elias? Oh god, too many ways to say this. 4422. Oh, breath at the end. Gasso in 8. Hell. And the men could tell it was an. Hate dinosaur names. Ornithopod. Ornithopod? F***ing hell. I got it. Just having a moment, you know. Otzi is Europe's oldest f***ing hell. Don't want to talk about mummies anymore. Can I talk about this? We'll find out. We'll find out if I can talk about this. Oh. Had to participate in the consumption of coca and alcohol in the form of chica. Shisha. Wow, I swear shisha was spelled with an S.